The music rises like a tide, and for a moment, I sit with the truth I'd spent years avoiding. If I wanted to build a life that mattered, I had to stop being afraid of getting it wrong. Failure isn't a flaw in the process. It is the process. People who never fail are just people who never step into the ring. I had to swing, miss, learn, and swing again. Winning taught me far less than losing ever did. Everything in life moves. Nothing is permanent. Storms pass, seasons change, doors open and close. Life isn't attacking me. It's shaping me. It isn't hurling events at me. It's folding them into me, if I let it. Every day has a handful of chances tucked inside it, and for years, I was the person who kept flinching. I watched opportunities like they were wild animals, and I was safer behind the fence. But here's the secret that forced me out. If I quit on my dream, what exactly is left? The outline of a life, maybe, but not the life. Oddly enough, one of the best classrooms I ever had was a job I couldn't stand. That's why they pay you, I realized, because you wouldn't go there on your own. But I decided if I had to be there, I'd be unforgettable there. Not because I loved it, but because I loved who I was becoming inside it. That's the difference. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the engine. If you only act when you feel like it, you become a hostage to your moods. If you act because the action matters, you become the driver. So I made a pact with myself. Every single day, put down one more brick. If I had to crawl, I crawled. If I had to inch forward, I inched. And when the noise of the world tried to drown out my focus, I pulled the plug on it. Fewer podcasts, fewer feeds, fewer hot takes. I returned to the mental workshop where the first good ideas had been born. I shut the door and did the work no one else could see. If I stayed the course, I told myself, the pit I was in would not be my home. It would be the platform I launched from. You can't throw a knockout punch you've never practiced. If I wanted what I didn't have, I had to do what I hadn't done. Complaining was a habit I knew too well. Complaining about the boss, the timing, the family, the world. People in that habit talk about problems like they're trading cards. I used to do it too. I used to ask questions that sounded like prayers but were really excuses. Why won't someone come and rescue me? Why doesn't life show up carrying the answers? And in those days, I kept getting kicked out of places that wanted discipline, not drama. I drifted into nights with no roof, pockets with no money, and mornings with no plan. The day it shifted was simple. I accepted that no one was coming. But there was a library, and that was enough. Shelves of people who had been where I was and walked out the front door. Everything worthy comes wrapped in a challenge. There's a reason treasures are buried. It isn't going to land in your lap shimmering and singing. It's hard. And that's good news because the hard path is a crowded place only at the starting line. A few steps in, it thins out. There are seasons when you feel the clock. You sense an open window, and if you don't move, it closes. I felt that. This was my shot to stop living by accident and finally live on purpose. If I didn't decide for my life would decide for me, and I might not enjoy the choice. So I made another pact. Act intentionally, even when the feeling fades. Especially when the feeling fades. Imagine this. At the end, you're looking up from your bed and the room is crowded, not with family, but with all the unstarted projects, the silenced ideas, the talents you folded and hid in the back of your mind like winter clothes. They glare at you because you were their only chance to come alive. That image haunted me. I wanted a clean room when it was all said and done, no ghosts left waiting. But I wasn't alone on the field. Thousands wanted the same things I wanted. That's not discouraging, that's clarifying. If I wanted to stand out, I had to outwork them. Earlier starts, later finishes. Time between the cracks. The dial had to move from 70 to 120, not once in a while, but on average. I told myself the truth. I didn't come this far to fold. My dreams, they were massive, more vivid than the life I woke up in. In those dreams, my accounts were healthy, my days had meaning, and my work changed things. But in reality, I was average in my habits. Good on a good day, great on a few, phenomenal in my imagination. So I built a ladder. Average to good, good to great, great to phenomenal. One rung at a time. If I knew what I was worth, I had to go and collect it, and that meant taking hits without turning into a critic of the universe. No more pointing at other people as if they were steering my ship. I didn't need an alibi. I needed a plan. When I looked forward, I used imagination. When I looked backward, I used memory. I promised myself to make decisions based on where I was going, not on where I'd been. The count resets every morning. Yesterday evaporates with the alarm. The miles I ran, the reps I pushed, the praise I got, wonderful, but irrelevant. The count is 0. That's not a threat, that's a gift. It means it's always go time. I swore I'd never quit. Quitting looks like a break, but it behaves like a burial. I told my team, my family, my brothers and sisters in effort, hold me to a standard that makes me stronger. I will be a person who hardens under pressure, who thinks clearly in chaos. And I would fight to keep that position, not once, but daily. Success can anesthetize you. After a win, creatures of the swamp float to the surface and bask. They become easy to catch. I didn't want that. I didn't want to turn into a victory statue, beautiful and unmoving. If I had tasted progress, I would take that as proof I could push further. Comfort wasn't my finish line. Hunger was my compass. People think they inherit discipline. They point to their family and say, "We aren't like that." But discipline doesn't leak down a family tree like sap. It's forged. It's earned at the boundary where you could give yourself slack and choose not to. I learned to hold the line. When I didn't want to show up, I pictured the clean satisfaction I'd feel if I did. I also pictured the dull ache of ducking the work, the way it drags behind you into the next hour, the next day, the next week. Those minutes matter. They aggregate. Hold the line for 5 minutes, and you train your mind to hold the line for 50. Hold the line for 50, and a year later, you're a different creature. I won't pretend I didn't think about quitting. Everyone does. Pain compresses your world until all you can imagine is escape. Save yourself is a loud thought when your lungs burn. But save yourself can become shorthand for stop trying. And that's not rational. It's panic disguised as wisdom. Nothing worth keeping will be handed to you. If you don't work, you won't get it, and truthfully, you won't deserve it. That's not punishment. It's alignment. I told my reflection, don't talk me through it, show me. Let the way you live be the evidence. The hardest grind is waking up and giving everything you've got, knowing the scenery might still look the same as yesterday. But inside the concrete is setting. Inside, a scaffolding is rising. That's the unseen construction. And here's something else I had to absorb deep in the bone. The season that bruises you doesn't own you. Don't sign a lease in the valley. If hardship is your address for a while, fine. But don't change your mailing info to make it permanent. Pick yourself up again. If you can't stand, kneel forward. If you can't kneel, inch. It's going to be a brawl. If you're chasing anything meaningful, pieces will go wrong. The alarm won't ring on time, or it will and you won't want it. Get up anyway. Don't wait until you feel like it. Behavior drags feeling behind it like a stubborn kid on a leash.
We all suffer loss. You can let it erode you, or you can let it refine you. I made peace with fear. It's part alarm, part fuel. But doubt? Doubt is my job. Doubt is something I build with my own hands. How far I can go, how hard I should work, whether the idea will fly. I can sabotage all of that from inside. So I stopped letting doubt borrow my voice. I told myself, you were allowed to be scared, but not to be uncommitted. It might take 6 months. It might take 6 years. If I do not quit, the vision eventually finds a door. You can do more than your history suggests. You don't know yourself well enough to predict your ceiling. Don't become a cynic because you prefer to be right about your limits. The wild ones, the so-called crazy, are the people who see shapes on the horizon before the rest of us see a line. Every person admired for doing something big was considered a little off. Good. If you hear you can't, answer watch. Mediocrity numbs. Routine can sedate your hunger. I reached a point where I was tired of being tired. And the part that stung most, it was on me. I wasn't doing what exceptional people do, but I expected exceptional results. There were nights I slept in places that weren't meant for sleeping. No back door, no backyard, no phone. In those days, there weren't even handheld screens to disappear into. Poverty is a teacher that doesn't whisper, it shoves. It pushed me toward faith, toward the idea that I could change in ways I didn't yet understand. You can do something remarkable today precisely because so many people stop at uncomfortable. The extra mile is roomy. It's often quiet. Sometimes it's lonely. That used to hurt me, the loneliness. But later I learned that lonely and alone are not the same word. Sometimes you're alone because you're a hurley. Life has teeth. It will try to take a bite out of you. When the wrong thing happens, when the plan busts, it's easy to say, I'm done. Don't. Keep fighting, even when the scoreboard doesn't budge. If you feel like you've reached a basement and there's no lower, good. Gravity has nothing left to offer you. The only direction left is up. The storm that surrounds you is not the whole sky. It looks like that when you're inside it, I know. But you're being tested, heated, forged. That's not punishment. It's preparation. Don't fail the test. Fight. Keep moving until you see the other side, the side that makes you tougher and kinder at once.
Courage isn't the door that locks out fear. It's the door you open while fear knocks. I had to stop making excuses. Too young, too old, too this, too that. Those are just ways to say, not yet, without admitting it. The truth is, the beginning of any new path is intoxicating. Momentum carries you for a week, maybe 3. Then one morning, you wake up and the excitement is gone. The work isn't glamorous anymore. That's when most people fold their tents and go home. Don't. Expect that dip. Prepare for it. Build routines that don't care about mood. There's no elevator to the top, only stairs. You take them one at a time, breath burning, legs heavy, and you don't stop because stopping gets easy. I kept telling myself, nobody will outwork me. They might beat me in talent, not here, not in effort. Encouragement matters. Keep your head up, shoulders back. If the road were easy, the view at the end wouldn't be so rare. You will fail often. That's part of progress. In those moments, remember what you've got inside you. You are built to change the temperature of rooms, not just measure them. Fear and failure? Make them companions. Let them sharpen you. Every hero looked strange to the crowd first. If there's a thing that wakes you up at night, a thing you can't stop sketching in your head, you owe it a chase. If you don't, you'll always be a little restless, a little off-key. I would hate to reach the end and realize I never did the one thing I was made to do because I listened to voices that never had to live with my regrets. Don't outsource your destiny to people who mean well but don't have to wake up with your choices. There were days I was on my knees, cold, tired, and convinced the ending had already been written. That's the fork in the road. Give up or get up. When you stumble, get up again, even if you have to sway for a second to find your feet. One step, then another. That's how the impossible shrinks. Discouragement creeps in quiet. It whispers that life might not be worth the fight, and if you nurse it, it grows. I had days when I wanted to drop everything. It was hard to believe I could climb out, and I asked why I had to struggle when all I wanted was to take care of the people I loved. But I kept a tiny ember alive. Do not surrender the dream. Not ever. You will fall. If you try 100 times and rise 100 times, you're learning 100 ways to stand. If you try 100 times and give up once, you lock the door yourself. As long as you try, you have a chance. Keep going, especially when it's embarrassing, especially when you feel unseen. It's not finished until you win the lesson the moment came to teach.
Some days, everything goes wrong at once. The deal collapses, the money vanishes, the supporters disappear. Fine. Start. Solve one problem, then the next. Don't waste energy screaming at the universe. Put it into building your way out. It's worth the strain. It's worth the fight. A life that counts will demand the best of you, and in return, it will give you a version of yourself you didn't know existed. Excuses are sophisticated lies we sell to ourselves. The real war is internal. Embrace discomfort. Growth lives there. If you keep dodging resistance, you'll stay soft. You must befriend pain, not as a victim, but as an apprentice. And watch your mouth. What they say about you can sting, but what you say about you can ruin you. My greatest leaps didn't come after easy wins. They came after I hit the ground hard. Because down there, I learned the mechanics of getting back up. Courage, commitment, grit. These are muscles. Use them and they thicken. When you do, interesting things start happening. You lift your head higher. You carry yourself like someone who can shoulder weight. And you begin to believe, because you've got evidence, that you can handle what's next. But first, honesty. Ask what you've been pretending not to know. Admit what you've been avoiding. Then flip the switch. Winners find a way to win because they hold themselves to a standard high enough to make losing uncomfortable. Stop blaming the weather, the boss, the traffic. Look in the mirror and ask why you're at half power when you promised full. You owe yourself an explanation. Then you owe yourself a correction. The fact that something seems impossible is the reason to pursue it. That's where courage can stretch its legs. If success were guaranteed, there'd be no victory in it. Your beginning might have been messy. Plenty of people start with addiction in the bloodline, absence in the home, bad luck on repeat. That doesn't lock your future. You can have a hard start and a beautiful ending. There's no glory in being a spectator of your own life. Get out of the stands and into the arena. You'll get muddy, you'll get cut. Good. That's how you learn your strength. Let your dream tear down the version of you that can't carry it. Let it break what's brittle so it can rebuild what's unbreakable. I never thought of myself as gifted. Not in sports, not in business. What I had was stubborn belief. If I could move a barbell that scared me yesterday, if I could overcome one more inch of resistance, I could move bigger things in every area of life. That belief was a lever, and I pulled it. Life will slap you. Don't take it personally, it's just life. When the current flows against you, don't drift with it. Learn how to swim in place if you have to. How to conserve energy, how to breathe under pressure. In training, they teach you how to deal with worst-case scenarios before they teach you anything else. Because worst case is what breaks untrained minds. Practice failing forward. Stock your world with people who demand your best. Tell the truth about the job that's become a stall. Leave the comfort of the only world you've known and go learn in another one. You can always come back, but you won't return the same. Take ownership. No one will care more about your dream than you, especially at the start. Don't contort your vision into a life that's too small to hold it. Lions don't ask permission to hunt.
And they don't hunt because they hate the prey. They hunt because the chase is in their bones. Fall in love with the process as much as the prize. That's how momentum becomes a habit, not an accident. There is a calling inside you. It doesn't scream, it hums. You hear it most clearly when everything else is quiet. Small wins can be dangerous. Satisfaction is a sweet toxin, and if you drink too much of it, you slow down. After a hard push, I noticed how easy it was to sink into comfort and call it rest forever. That's when predators get caught, right after the meal, when their guard drops and their muscles go slack. I decided no paralysis after progress. A win is not a hammock, it's a handrail for the next climb. People kept asking where I learned to be disciplined, as if someone handed it to me. No one did. I wasn't born into a regimented clan with calendars etched into our bones. I had to build it, nail by mental nail. Discipline means drawing a line and refusing to let myself cross it, even when everyone's telling me I've earned a break. I learned to picture the finish, the clean, quiet satisfaction after I do the thing I didn't want to do. I also learned to picture the opposite, the sagging feeling that comes after I let myself off the hook. Those images became tools. When the moment arrived, I chose the feeling I wanted to live with later. Hold the line, hold the line, hold the line. Those minutes add up. Those quiet victories aggregate into a different identity. One day, you wake up and realize you're someone you used to admire. Pain tries to hijack your thinking. When it hurts, everything in your body screams, "Protect yourself." That instinct saves lives in the wild, but in a long fight, it can trick you into retreating from the very effort that will set you free. I had to separate the alarm from the action. Don't confuse "I'm scared" with "I should stop." If I didn't put in the work, I wouldn't get the results. And more importantly, I wouldn't deserve them. I told myself, stop giving speeches and start giving proof. Live in a way that makes explanations unnecessary.
The grind is brutal because it looks like nothing is happening while everything is happening. You show up, you give, you sweat, and the world outside your head looks unchanged. That's where people turn around. I tried to remember, concrete doesn't harden on the surface first. It sets from the inside. When life crushed me, I refused to make it a lifestyle. I might have to stay low for a season, but I wouldn't plant flowers there. If I had to rent the pain, I'd pay month to month, but I wouldn't buy it, and I would not decorate it. I accepted that the path I'd chosen would be a dogfight. I stopped fantasizing about a version of success where everything cooperated. The alarm goes off, get up. Not in 5, not after another scroll, get up. Don't negotiate with your lesser self in the dark. They argue better there. If a tragedy arrived, I promised to use it. You can stack loss into your shoulders and grow taller, or you can let it fold you in half. I chose to stack. I noticed how much of my stress wasn't from real problems, but from my talent for inventing imaginary ones. That's an art too, turning a quiet day into a crisis with nothing but what if. Fear, in its purest form, can be useful. It wakes you up, makes you alert. Doubt is different. Doubt is a story I tell myself to justify hiding. So I made a rule. Fear is allowed in the car. Doubt doesn't get the keys. I would be scared and still commit. Maybe it wouldn't happen in 6 months, maybe not in a year, but if I didn't stop, the day would come when the dream was no longer a dream, but an address. People underestimate themselves because they believe the short story someone else wrote about them. You don't know yourself well enough to be certain of your limits. Don't trade your future for the comfort of low expectations. The people called crazy are usually just those who notice doors before the walls understand they've cracked. When someone told me I couldn't, I learned to smile and say, watch. Mediocrity is anesthesia. It numbs your hunger and smooths your edges until you forget you ever wanted more. I got sick of it. And the worst part?
I had done it to myself. Exceptional results require exceptional behavior. My past included nights without a roof, days without a dollar, and seasons where faith was the only thing I could hold. Those were not romantic years, but they taught me how to move when the ground didn't help. Here's the truth. Greatness is accessible precisely because most people never push past discomfort. The extra mile is usually empty, which makes it the quietest place to build. It can feel lonely there, but lonely is the price of early. Life fights back. When things collapsed, when promises fell through, it was easy to say, "I'm done." But every time I stayed in the fight, I learned something about myself I couldn't have learned in safety. The storm is not the sky. From inside it, it looks like the whole world is made of rain. It isn't. You're being heated and hammered, not destroyed. Walk out of the fire carrying something you didn't have when you walked in.
Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's forward motion with fear in your peripheral vision. I stripped my language of excuses. Too old, too young, wrong background, wrong timing. Those were just ways to tell myself the path was closed without testing the door. I also prepared for the frustration valley. Every new start is fueled by a rush. Then the excitement fades and the same steps feel heavier. That dip is where most people quit, not because they can't, but because they didn't expect it. I decided to expect it. When it came, I took the stairs, always the stairs. That's how you get legs. I promised myself no one would outwork me. People might outrun me for a day, outshine me for a moment, but over time, effort would tilt the field. I reminded myself to stay encouraged in the middle of effort. The view doesn't reward the bitter. I heard voices, some external, most internal, saying I was broken, slow, not made for this. I answered with stubbornness. I might not be the most talented, but I could be the most relentless. I wouldn't surrender my will, not to criticism, not to boredom, not to fatigue. Toughness isn't loud, it's a whisper. Again. If something kept me awake at night, if an idea tugged at my sleeve every morning, I gave it oxygen. I didn't want to be a cautionary tale about a person who ignored their calling because the world looked busy. I refused to meet the end of my story knowing I had left the most important pages blank. Sometimes, the only choice you have is to get up or stay down. When I failed, I tried again, and again, and again. You don't have to sprint. You have to keep moving. If you will not quit, your odds improve every minute you remain in the arena. Discouragement is sneaky. It doesn't kick the door in, it slips through the cracks. There were days I wanted to quit everything. I told the truth about those days and then I went back to work. I held a single thread. It's not over until I learn what this moment came to teach me. When everything went south at once, I learned not to dramatize the end. I asked a simple question. What's the next solvable piece? Solve it. Then find the next piece. That's it. It's not glamorous, but it builds a staircase out of chaos. And the climb is worth it. A meaningful life doesn't present itself fully formed. It emerges from small, unfancy acts of bravery performed in sequence. I searched for excuses in my own mouth. I found them hiding in sophisticated language, strategy, timing, prudence. Sometimes those words are wise, but sometimes they're smokescreens for fear. The real war is internal. To grow, I had to get uncomfortable on purpose. I made pain a teacher, not the kind that abuses, but the kind that tests and strengthens.
I also learned to patrol my self-talk. Critics will say plenty. They don't need your help. The most dangerous limits are the ones you repeat to yourself. My most powerful breakthroughs came on the heels of my worst defeats, because I had to invent new ways to stand. Scar tissue is not a flaw, it's armor. So I doubled down on courage, commitment, and the daily habits that toughen the mind. You do that, and interesting things happen. Your posture changes, your eye contact steadies,
You start to respect your own word because you've kept it in private. That's the quiet power of earning your self-trust. Next, I got honest. Radical honesty is a scalpel. I asked where I was lying to myself. Was I calling entertainment recovery? Was I calling procrastination planning? I held myself to the standard I loved to demand from others. Winners win because they refuse to accept a culture of excuses in their own lives. I stopped auditing the world and started auditing me. I told myself no more often. No to late night binges. No to the snack that dulls my edge. No to the next episode when I hadn't earned it. A no aimed at myself is a yes aimed at my future. I owed me that. I chose a purpose bigger than comfort. I told myself there is no better way to live than to spend your life attempting something that feels just out of reach. If it looks impossible, that's the invitation. Courage doesn't grow in certainty, it grows in risk. Failing is not the worst outcome. Shrinking from the challenge, that's the real failure. Your start is not your sentence. Maybe you were handed chaos. Maybe addiction sits at your table, or absence lives in your family story. That can be where you begin, not where you end. You can write a new chapter with the same letters. So I left the stands and stepped into the arena. I got scraped, I bled, I got knocked down in front of people with opinions. And then I stood up, again and again, until even the critics grew tired of predicting my end. If I refused to quit, the story had a way of bending. Let your dream strip you of what can't go the distance. Let it take your laziness, your vanity, your need for applause. Let it rebuild your spine. I didn't consider myself gifted in sport, in business, in any conventional way. But I believed that if I fought through one more rep, one more page, one more call, I could move mountains one handful at a time. I believed it until it was true. Life will not spare you. Contracts will collapse. People you counted on will miss the moment. That's not a conspiracy, it's life. When the current pulls you, don't add your strength to it. Dig in. When things go wrong, don't go with them.
In any craft worth mastering, they train you to handle the worst-case scenario before they hand you more power. It's not pessimism, it's preparedness. I practiced how to recover when plans jammed. I rehearsed grace under pressure. I made friends with the floor, so I wasn't shocked to find myself there. I failed my way forward. I surrounded myself with people who weren't impressed by my talk, only my consistency. I stopped pretending the job that drained me would one day transform into my calling like magic. If my world felt too small for my dream, I made the world bigger. If I left a familiar place to explore a new one, I reminded myself, you can visit home without moving back in. No one will carry your dream for you. If I wanted people to believe in it, I had to believe in it first, with my calendar, with my wallet, with my will. You can't cram a cathedral into a closet of a life. Make room. Lions don't beg predators to behave. They hunt, and they love the hunt as much as the meal. I taught myself to fall in love with the process, the early mornings, the silent reps, the read and reread, because process compounds. There's a hum inside you. Call it calling, call it direction, call it the quiet pull of a life aligned. When everything else quiets down, follow that sound. That's your compass. That's your purpose. Pain changes you. That's not optional. How it changes you is. You can walk out bitter or better, smaller or larger, cynical or wise. You haven't peaked. There's more in you than you've let out. If you keep going, keep persisting, keep taking ownership, what's inside will grow roots and branches. Don't just go through it, grow through it. Pain is not sent to bury you, it's sent to prepare you, to build capacity, to increase range, to develop your voice. I learned not to insult people who were hurting with slogans. Some seasons are brutal. It's not fair to pretend otherwise. Losing a job after decades of loyalty hurts. Life puts knots on your head. But even then, reaction is leverage. 10% is what happens, 90% is what you do about it. We all crave toughness and look for it in soft places. You won't find it there. You find it where breath hitchhikes and doubt asks loud questions. Drown in effort long enough and your mind grows gills. It learns to function where it once panicked. That expansion is a miracle you can measure. If you blow it, hold your head up. If you get blindsided, hold your head up. The mistake isn't your name. Learn, adjust, and move. Chin level, eyes forward. There is greatness in you. Real greatness. Not the kind that goes viral, the kind that endures. You are not most people. Most people take the safest path and end up quietly miserable. I chose a path with risk because the reward was aliveness. I crafted an exit plan. I saved enough to buy time. I used the hours outside the job to build a bridge, and then I walked it. I behaved as if my life depended on it because the life I wanted did.
People can't buy your vision for you. They invest after you do. I funded my own belief with sweat and sacrifice. And as I did, momentum started to show up, not as magic, but as math. Inputs stacked into outputs. Choices stacked into character. Motivation came and went. I made peace with that. You don't need to feel like a champion to put your shoes on. Do what the day requires and let your feelings catch up. Don't catastrophize every surprise. Adjust your angle. Watch the best, study the best, and adopt the habits that make them the best. Excellence has a lifestyle. Copy it. Real predators don't pounce only on the wounded. They relish the hunt. The process is the prize. I worked in the dark when no one watched. I studied what mattered when applause couldn't be earned. I fell in love with building bricks no one praised. Life will throw betrayals and humiliations at you to see if you're serious. Those aren't signs to stop. They're checkpoints. Your pain is not a curse. It's your power source. When you choose to keep going, pain becomes fuel. Quitting is not an option. If you're going to stop, stop at the top. When the task is complete, when the mission is achieved. Don't stop because the price is high. Pay it. The return is sweeter. Find a way. Believe. Persevere. Open your eyes after a knockdown and think strategically. Does this action make me stronger or weaker? Will it move me closer to my long-term aim or further away? Don't lie to yourself. The truth is, you have time. You have skill. You have support. You have willpower. You have discipline. Use them. Every day is an invitation to practice resilience in pursuit of your purpose. And every time you accept, you step closer to your next breakthrough. The middle of any mission is where good intentions go to die if you're not careful. The start has its fireworks. The finish has its confetti. The middle has repetition. It asks the rude question, who are you, when no one is clapping? I learned to be suspicious of the days that felt too easy, not because ease is bad, but because it can blur the edges of purpose. After a string of wins, I felt my pace slow. "You've earned it," the voice said. That voice knows your favorite chair and the exact weight of your blankets. I answered it with a schedule. I didn't trust inspiration to show up on time, so I set alarms for my courage. Discipline isn't militant misery, it's intelligent kindness to your future self. It's not punishment, it's provision. It's what you do for the you that will wake up tomorrow and wear the consequences of today's choices. I stopped asking, do I feel like it? And started asking, will I respect myself if I do it? That question changed my days.
Pain tried to run my decision-making. It shouted emergency even when the moment required endurance. I learned to translate it, you're uncomfortable doesn't mean you're unsafe. I promised myself I would not let discomfort talk me out of destiny. The grind looks like you're going nowhere while you're building the road beneath your feet. That's why many people turn around. The scenery refuses to change.
But the unseen work compounds. You don't notice your strength growing until the weight you once feared becomes your warm-up. I refused to invest in suffering. If I had to live with it for a time, I wouldn't own it. I wouldn't decorate it with stories about why it was noble to stay stuck. I could endure a season without calling it a personality. This is a fight. Stop wishing for a world that stops testing you. The alarm rings, get up. Don't barter with the pillow. That conversation has one ending, and it isn't victory. When grief or loss pulled the oxygen out of a room, I forced a window open somewhere. Small efforts that reminded me I could act, even when I couldn't fix everything. I realized much of my anxiety was self-authored. I could turn a quiet morning into a disaster with nothing but imagination. Fear has utility. It primes your senses. Doubt is a habit. It drains them. I made a pact. Fear can sit shotgun, but it doesn't get to touch the wheel. Doubt rides in the trunk. Let people call you crazy for aiming higher than your resume suggests. It takes a different kind of eyesight to see potential that hasn't taken shape yet. When I heard "you can't," I used the simplest response: watch. Mediocrity is subtle. It doesn't insult you. It sedates you. It offers just enough comfort to keep you quiet. I got bored with my own excuses. I got tired of recycling reasons for average output. The harsh years, empty pockets, borrowed couches, silent phones taught me a skill that comfort never could: how to move forward without applause. Greatness isn't crowded because most people step off the path when it turns uphill. The extra mile is open. It's dimly lit. It's quiet. The loneliness you feel there is just a sign that you've arrived early. When the plan imploded, I stayed in the ring. The storm never was the sky. It only felt that way when my view was blocked by rain. That season didn't destroy me. It forged me into something that could stand in weather I used to avoid. Walk out carrying new tools. Courage is motion despite noise. I scrubbed my language of excuses and built my routines around the frustration valley, that predictable dip after the early high. I mapped it. I stalked it with habits. I found the stairs and climbed them. I stopped expecting the elevator that wasn't coming. There was one promise I guarded like a secret. Nobody would outwork me across time. Someone could outsprint me today, sure, but day after day, I would show up at a level that bent the odds. I practiced encouragement like a duty. A bitter mind can't build a bright future. I met my limits and shook their hand. "You're not permanent," I told them. I didn't have to be the most gifted. I had to be the most stubborn. Toughness announces itself in small ways. The word "again" whispered when you're tired. The idea that haunted me in a good way, the one that woke me up at night, got time on my calendar. If it wanted my attention, it got it. I didn't want to be the person who took their calling to the grave because they were too polite to answer it. I adopted a simple policy: stumble forward. If I failed, I tried again. Rest if you must, but don't exit. As long as you're in motion, odds tilt. Discouragement slid into my life through cracked windows, late nights, low sleep, loose boundaries. I learned to close the windows. When everything went wrong at once, I didn't narrate a tragedy. I asked, what's the next small problem I can solve? Solve it. Then the next. That chain of solved problems became a ladder back into light. A solid life is built out of thousands of unspectacular decisions made on hard days. That's the recipe. I audited my own alibis. I caught myself calling fear timing and laziness strategy. I confronted that. Growth is built on purposeful discomfort. Pain, invited properly, becomes a tutor. It doesn't coddle, it coaches. I policed my self-talk. If critics want to criticize, they have their own mouths. They don't need access to mine. My pivotal leaps came after sharp falls because getting up forced creativity. Scar tissue became sturdy skin.
So I doubled down on courage, commitment, and habits that thicken resolve. Keep promises to yourself in private, and your posture shifts. Your word starts to weigh more. Honesty cut through the fog. I stopped pretending I was recharging when I was escaping, planning when I was hiding. Winners don't tolerate a culture of excuses inside their own skin. I stopped auditing others and audited me. I practiced saying no to myself, no to scrolling into stupor, no to sugar that slows me, no to a late show when the morning owed me effort. Every no to now became a yes to a future I could be proud of. I owed that to the person I was becoming. I adopted this life purpose: spend myself on an undertaking big enough to break me and rebuild me. The impossible isn't a red light, it's a compass needle. Certainty doesn't grow courage, risk does. The only tragic failure is refusing to step onto the field. Your beginning may be a mess. That's common. So are turnarounds. A bad start can be the raw material for a better ending. I left the stands, I stepped into the arena. I got knocked down where everyone could see. Then I got up where everyone could see. If you will not quit, the story will bend.
Let your dream deconstruct the parts of you that can't make the trip. Let it tear down vanity, entitlement, and the need for applause. Let it rebuild your backbone. I wasn't naturally gifted, but I believed in unglamorous advancement. One more rep, one more call, one more paragraph, one more mile. That kind of belief is a lever you can move mountains with. Life didn't spare me. It won't spare you. Contracts collapse. People flake. Plans jam. That's not a reason to fold. In the Navy, they teach you to clear a jam before they teach you to shoot, because jams break minds faster than recoil. So I practice clearing jams in my own life. Reset, refocus, re-engage. No drama, just drills. I failed forward. I chose friends who measured me by consistency, not charisma. I stopped being delusional about a job magically transforming into a calling against its nature. If my life was too small for my dream, I expanded my life. I left familiar rooms for unfamiliar ones and discovered that home is portable when you carry your values. No one invests in a dream you won't back yourself. I funded my belief with sweat, time, and money. You can't jam a cathedral into a closet. Build bigger. Lions don't apologize for being lions. They hunt because the hunt is in their bones. I learned to love the work, the silence, the repetitions no algorithm rewards. That love is where excellence hides. There's a hum inside you, quiet, persistent. That's your compass. Follow it until it pulls you into a life that fits. Pain will change you. Choose the direction. You haven't peaked. There are rooms in you you haven't opened yet. If you persist and take responsibility, what's inside finds a way out. Don't just go through the fire, grow through it. I stopped insulting real pain with slogans. Some seasons require tears and time. But even then, response is leverage. 10% is what happens, 90% is what I do next. Everyone wants toughness and looks for it in comfortable places. It isn't there. You find it in deep water. Drown long enough in effort and your mind grows gills. It expands because you refuse to leave. That's how capacity is born. If you mess up, keep your head level. If you get blindsided, stand tall. Your mistake isn't your name. Move with dignity. There's greatness in you, the durable kind. You're not most people. Most people choose safe and end up with quiet despair. Choose risk, and you get aliveness. I saved for runway, built a plan, used my off hours to erect a bridge, and then crossed it. I acted like my future depended on it. It did. People won't carry your dream.
They'll join after you go first. I put in enough effort for both of us until they came. Then momentum arrived, not as magic, but as math. Inputs compounded, choices hardened into character, and character shaped a future I could believe in. You have to stop tripping like every disruption is a death sentence. It's often a detour. Adjust the angle. Don't abandon the aim. I studied the best, not their highlight reels, but their habits, how they practice, how they recover, how they think when nobody is looking. Excellence isn't mysterious, it's methodical.
Real predators don't only pounce on the wounded, they savor the pursuit. The process becomes the reward. That's why the best put in work in the dark, when the coach isn't watching, when the crowd is sleeping. They run the film, they study the angles, not because of a grade, but because they fell in love with mastery. You will be betrayed, exposed, humiliated, ignored. Life will test the seal on your soul. Most of those moments happen in private before they happen in public. That's where identity gets forged. When the room empties and silence sits heavy, what remains is the honest answer to the question, who are you? Your pain can become your generator. Fed to the right engine, it becomes power. When you decide, quitting exits the options list. If you ever choose to stop, do it after you've reached the summit, not halfway up the cliff. Don't surrender because today's price tags are high. Pay them and watch how tomorrow grows. Find a way. Believe on tired days. Persevere when plans giggle and run. After a knockdown, start thinking, not sulking. Ask, will this next action make me stronger or weaker? Will this habit edge me toward or away from the life I'm building? And do not lie to yourself. You can lie to anyone else and get away with it, not you. You always know. The truth is, you have more resources than your fear will admit. Time carved from excuses, skill sharpened by use, knowledge available at arm's length. People who will help if they see you help yourself. Willpower grown by use and discipline that strengthens with every repetition. Use them. There is no better day to act than the day you are in. Winners win. It sounds simplistic because truth often does. Make a culture inside your life where excuses starve. If you accept mistreatment, you teach people how to treat you. If you accept apathy from yourself, you'll get more of it. Raise the standard and hold the line. There's a mirror in every room you walk into, the one you carry inside your head. Look at it. Ask why you're at 50% when you promised 100. Don't point fingers outward until you've held your own feet to the fire. No more blaming bosses or traffic or weather. No more TV when you owe yourself sleep. No more snacks when you owe yourself health. No more mindless scroll when your dream is hungry. You owe you. Aim at the daring. The fact that something looks impossible is the very reason to attempt it. Where else do bravery and growth live but on the edge of uncertainty? If certainty were guaranteed, there'd be no stories worth telling, only schedules worth keeping. Let the impossible entice you. Your origin story doesn't get to be your obituary. People hand you narratives, broken homes, absent parents, the gravity of addiction. They are facts, not fate. You can be the hinge in your family line, the one that swings the door a new way.
Get off the sidelines. Get dirty, sweaty, and a little bloody. Fall. Stand. Fall again. Stand again. Earn the reputation of a person who doesn't stay down, whose lungs might burn, but whose will burns hotter. The version of you that exists now is a blessing, but it isn't the finished product. What got you here won't carry you there. Let the dream break you open and rebuild you into someone who can hold the weight of what you're chasing. That's transformation. I wasn't born with the golden ticket. I wasn't a prodigy. but I kept showing up with an attitude that said, there's nothing I can't learn. If I could push weight that used to pin me, I could push challenges that used to scare me. I believed it stubbornly enough for reality to catch up. Life happens. It isn't personal. When currents run against you, don't add your strength to them with complaints. Don't drift with trouble. Swim with intention. When plans jam, clear the jam. When partners bail, plan alone. When doors close, build one. When things go wrong, don't go with them. They teach worst case before best case in every hard school for a reason. If you can function under pressure when tools fail, you can excel when they work. So I trained for adversity. I rehearsed recovery. I normalized the sound of hitting the floor so I could normalize getting back up. Fail forward. Curate your circle to people who clap for your discipline, not your comfortable excuses. Quit waiting for a job to become your calling by magic. If your dream doesn't fit inside your current life, enlarge your life. Move if you must. Learn new languages, of business, of craft, of courage. If you leave your city, you can return. But you will be different, and that difference is the point. Own it. No one is coming to do your push-ups. No investor funds an idea you won't fund with sweat. Big dreams don't fit into small calendars. Make room. Schedule effort like a meeting with your future self. Show up on time. Lions hunt. They don't sigh at the savannah and wait for a delivery. They love the stalk, the sprint, the strategy. Learn to love the set, the rep, the draft, the call, the correction. The process is where you'll live most of your life. Make it a place you're proud to inhabit. Pain will visit. Let it teach. Heartbreak will arrive. Let it deepen you instead of harden you. Loss will shrink your world for a moment. Expand again. You haven't released everything you can. There's more. I refused to hand out greeting cards of positivity to people facing real storms. I learned to sit in the mess with honesty and then stand with resolve. Life puts knots on your head. That's a fact. A bigger fact is that response is leverage. 10% versus 90. I chose to swing that lever.
We look for toughness in temperature-controlled rooms. You find it where breath is scarce and noise is high. I entered waters that flooded my lungs and promised myself I'd find a way to float. The mind adapts. When you refuse to evacuate, it says, "He isn't leaving. Build capacity." And then something changes. You engage rooms in your mind that had been dark. Lights come on. When you slip, don't slump into shame. Lift your head. The mistake is your moment, not your identity. You've got something special, maybe quieter than you expected, but powerful. The planet doesn't need more noise, it needs more steady fires. 2% of people will take the dangerous path with intention. Be one of them. The safe path is a waiting room with comfy chairs and no exits. It leaves you in quiet desperation. The dangerous path offers danger and meaning. Buy yourself time, stack funds, design the bridge out. After work, work. And when your moment comes, walk across. Treat your goals as if your heartbeat depended on them, because the aliveness you want does. There's no cavalry. You are it. Invest first so others know it's safe to help. As you do, the physics of effort shows up. Inputs compound, behaviors crystallize into identity, identity drives action, action produces outcomes. You create a loop you can trust. And when motivation drifts, remember, it's a feeling. It will return and it will leave again. Discipline remains. Do what's required and let the feeling catch up when it can. Study the best, steal their habits, practice them until they feel like home. Excellence can be learned if you will pay attention and pay the price. You will be accused of being obsessed. Good. It's better than being asleep. You will be misunderstood. Good. You're not building something average. You will be tempted by shortcuts. Decline. Shortcuts shortchange the only part that matters, who you become on the way. You have to stop tripping like every disruption is a death sentence. It's often a detour. Adjust the angle, don't abandon the aim. I studied the best, not their highlight reels, but their habits, how they practice, how they recover, how they think when nobody is looking. Excellence isn't mysterious, it's methodical. Real predators don't only pounce on the wounded, they savor the pursuit. The process becomes the reward. That's why the best put in work in the dark, when the coach isn't watching, when the crowd is sleeping. They run the film, they study the angles, not because of a grade, but because they fell in love with mastery. You will be betrayed, exposed, humiliated, ignored. Life will test the seal on your soul. Most of those moments happen in private before they happen in public. That's where identity gets forged. When the room empties and silence sits heavy, what remains is the honest answer to the question, who are you? Your pain can become your generator. Fed to the right engine, it becomes power.
When you decide, quitting exits the options list. If you ever choose to stop, do it after you've reached the summit, not halfway up the cliff. Don't surrender because today's price tags are high. Pay them and watch how tomorrow grows. Find a way. Believe on tired days. Persevere when plans giggle and run. After a knockdown, start thinking, not sulking. Ask, will this next action make me stronger or weaker? Will this habit edge me toward or away from the life I'm building? And do not lie to yourself. You can lie to anyone else and get away with it, not you. You always know. The truth is, you have more resources than your fear will admit. Time carved from excuses, skill sharpened by use, knowledge available at arm's length, people who will help if they see you help yourself, willpower grown by use, and discipline that strengthens with every repetition. Use them. There is no better day to act than the day you are in. Winners win. It sounds simplistic because truth often does. Make a culture inside your life where excuses starve. If you accept mistreatment, you teach people how to treat you. If you accept apathy from yourself, you'll get more of it. Raise the standard and hold the line. There's a mirror in every room you walk into, the one you carry inside your head. Look at it. Ask why you're at 50% when you promised 100. Don't point fingers outward until you've held your own feet to the fire. No more blaming bosses or traffic or weather. No more TV when you owe yourself sleep. No more snacks when you owe yourself health. No more mindless scroll when your dream is hungry. You owe you. Aim at the daring. The fact that something looks impossible is the very reason to attempt it. Where else do bravery and growth live but on the edge of uncertainty? If certainty were guaranteed, there'd be no stories worth telling, only schedules worth keeping. Let the impossible entice you. Your origin story doesn't get to be your obituary. People hand you narratives, broken homes, absent parents, the gravity of addiction. They are facts, not fate. You can be the hinge in your family line, the one that swings the door a new way. Get off the sidelines, get dirty, sweaty, and a little bloody. Fall, stand, fall again, stand again. Earn the reputation of a person who doesn't stay down, whose lungs might burn, but whose will burns hotter. The version of you that exists now is a blessing, but it isn't the finished product. What got you here won't carry you there. Let the dream break you open and rebuild you into someone who can hold the weight of what you're chasing. That's transformation. I wasn't born with the golden ticket. I wasn't a prodigy, but I kept showing up with an attitude that said, there's nothing I can't learn. If I could push weight that used to pin me, I could push challenges that used to scare me.
I believed it stubbornly enough for reality to catch up.
Life happens. It isn't personal. When currents run against you, don't add your strength to them with complaints. Don't drift with trouble. Swim with intention. When plans jam, clear the jam. When partners bail, plan alone. When doors close, build one. When things go wrong, don't go with them. They teach worst case before best case in every hard school for a reason. If you can function under pressure when tools fail, you can excel when they work. So I trained for adversity. I rehearsed recovery. I normalized the sound of hitting the floor so I could normalize getting back up. Fail forward. Curate your circle to people who clap for your discipline, not your comfortable excuses. Quit waiting for a job to become your calling by magic. If your dream doesn't fit inside your current life, enlarge your life. Move if you must. Learn new languages, of business, of craft, of courage. If you leave your city, you can return, but you will be different, and that difference is the point. Own it. No one is coming to do your push-ups. No investor funds an idea you won't fund with sweat. Big dreams don't fit into small calendars. Make room. Schedule effort like a meeting with your future self. Show up on time. Lions hunt. They don't sigh at the savannah and wait for a delivery. They love the stalk, the sprint, the strategy. Learn to love the set, the rep, the draft, the call, the correction. The process is where you'll live most of your life. Make it a place you're proud to inhabit. Pain will visit. Let it teach. Heartbreak will arrive. Let it deepen you instead of harden you. Loss will shrink your world for a moment. Expand again. You haven't released everything you can. There's more. I refuse to hand out greeting cards of positivity to people facing real storms. I learned to sit in the mess with honesty and then stand with resolve. Life puts knots on your head. That's a fact. A bigger fact is that response is leverage. 10% versus 90. I chose to swing that lever. We look for toughness in temperature-controlled rooms. You find it where breath is scarce and noise is high. I entered waters that flooded my lungs and promised myself I'd find a way to float. The mind adapts when you refuse to evacuate. It says, "He isn't leaving. Build capacity." And then something changes. You engage rooms in your mind that had been dark. Lights come on. When you slip, don't slump into shame. Lift your head. The mistake is your moment, not your identity. You've got something special, maybe quieter than you expected, but powerful. The planet doesn't need more noise. It needs more steady fires. 2% of people will take the dangerous path with intention. Be one of them. The safe path is a waiting room with comfy chairs and no exits. It leaves you in quiet desperation. The dangerous path offers danger and meaning. Buy yourself time. Stack funds. Design the bridge out. After work, work. And when your moment comes, walk across. Treat your goals as if your heartbeat depended on them, because the aliveness you want does. There's no cavalry. You are it. Invest first so others know it's safe to help. As you do, the physics of effort shows up. Inputs compound, behaviors crystallize into identity. Identity drives action. Action produces outcomes. You create a loop you can trust. And when motivation drifts, remember, it's a feeling. It will return and it will leave again. Discipline remains. Do what's required and let the feeling catch up when it can. Study the best, steal their habits, practice them until they feel like home. Excellence can be learned if you will pay attention and pay the price. You will be accused of being obsessed. Good. It's better than being asleep. You will be misunderstood. Good. You're not building something average. You will be tempted by shortcuts. Decline.
Shortcuts shortchange the only part that matters, who you become on the way. Morning. No fanfare, no parade. An alarm, a breath, a choice. That's the rhythm that rebuilt my life. I used to believe a breakthrough would arrive with trumpets. What actually came were ordinary days that asked extraordinary things. Get up when it's tempting not to. Tell the truth when a lie would be easier. Make the call you're afraid to make. Do the rep you don't want to do. It turns out greatness hides in plain sight, dressed like routine. I walked back through the rooms of my past, the job I hated that taught me excellence anyway, the nights on a floor that taught me humility, the library that taught me possibility, the losses that taught me inventory. The same pattern appeared in each. The moment I stopped waiting to feel ready and started acting as if I already were, the world budged. Not all at once, but it budged. I learned to treat success like a checkpoint, not a destination. The reward for reaching a peak is a bigger view, more mountains, more lines to climb. Comfort tried to sing me lullabies. You've earned a long rest. I answered with a calendar, not cruelty. Discipline isn't self-hate, it's self-respect in advance. It's writing a check your future self can cash with pride. There were seasons I wanted to throw my hands up and walk off the field. Promises fell through, friends vanished on big days, money evaporated right before deadlines. In those hours, I didn't aim for inspiration, I aimed for integrity. I asked, what would a person I admired do next? Then I did that. You can't always control outcomes, but you can always control your example. I also decided to stop inventing enemies inside my head. Fear? Useful if I aimed it. Doubt? A habit I refused to practice. I let fear warn me of cliffs without letting it convince me there were cliffs everywhere. I refused to turn neutral days into disasters with what-if fantasies. When panic rose, I answered with a plan small enough to execute.
Every so often, I revisited that image of the deathbed. The crowd of unlived ideas, untried talents, untested versions of me. In my imagination, as I did the work day after day, they stopped glaring. One by one, they nodded and stepped into the world. A project launched, a skill learned, a habit secured, a person helped. That room grew emptier as my life grew fuller. That felt like redemption. I kept the count is zero rule. Yesterday didn't get to bully or bribe today. Neither victory nor failure prepaid the rent. Every morning was a new contract. Do the work or don't, but be honest about the choice. That freed me from shame and laziness alike. I didn't need to ride yesterday's high or drown in yesterday's miss. I needed to move. On the path, I learned the difference between pain that harms and pain that hardens. Harm sends alarms that say, stop. Hardening sends alarms that say, pay attention. Most of what I encountered was the second kind. It didn't want to break me, it wanted to sharpen me. When life hit me, I stopped asking, why me, and started asking, what now? That question invites strength. Here's what I know now. There will always be a reason to wait. Don't. Excuses breed in the dark. Turn on the light of simple, measurable actions. Your circle is a mirror. Surround yourself with people who applaud your effort more than your outcomes. Confidence is a byproduct of kept promises. Keep them in private first. The process is the prize. If you love the hunt, you'll never starve. When the storm came, and it always did, I refused to let it narrate my story. I remembered the storm is not the sky. It's a chapter, not the book. I would be the person who walked out carrying new tools, new wisdom, new humility. Pain would not harden me into a statue, it would deepen me into a person. I stopped treating talent like a lottery ticket and started treating effort like a currency. I paid daily.
Sometimes I overpaid, not because I was a martyr, but because I wanted breathless competence, the kind that shows up under pressure, the kind you can't counterfeit, the kind you can trust. I started measuring my days in promises kept, not praise collected. I stopped being surprised by frustration and built routes through it. I stopped assuming other people should understand my dream and instead made sure I understood it so clearly I could carry it alone if I had to. I designed my days to host it. There's a point where you realize your life is responding. The doors aren't flying off their hinges, but they're unlocked now. People who didn't return your calls, return them. Opportunities peek over the fence. Momentum whispers, "Keep feeding me." That's not magic, it's math, compounding in motion.
And then there's this truth. At some point, you become the person you were chasing. Not a superhero, not a headline, just someone whose word has weight, whose actions line up with their values, whose days add up to a story worth reading. That's the quiet victory. That's the one that endures. I built a simple closing ritual for each night. I asked 3 questions. What did I do today that honored the person I'm becoming? Where did I hide? What small, specific step will I take tomorrow before noon? Those questions kept me honest and forward-leaning. They reminded me that transformation is not an event, it's a lifestyle. If you're listening to this and you feel behind, you're not. You're right on time if you start now. If you feel unprepared, welcome. No one arrives prepared for their biggest calling. Preparation happens under load. If you feel alone, you might simply be early. The extra mile is rarely crowded. So, here's your move when this ends. Pick one promise you will keep before the day turns over. Something bite-sized and real. Choose one excuse to retire tonight. Give it a short eulogy and let it go. Text one person who sharpens you. Tell them your next step. Ask them to hold you to it. Do that and watch how quickly your world begins to respond. Before I go, a word for the tribe that's writing with me. This message lives where doers gather. If you want this kind of fire on repeat, meet me at Final Gear. Hit subscribe like you're planting a flag. Tap like if something in you woke up. Share this with one person who needs a hand up, not a handout. Let's stack a community that doesn't just consume motivation, but manufactures it. Tomorrow morning, your alarm will sound. Take a breath, swing your feet to the floor, and remember, the count is 0, and that means it's go time.